Welcome to Digital Learning Day 2019 here at Crestwood Elementary School. My name is Bradleigh Olson, one of the fourth grade teachers.
Hey, I'm Patrick Donovan, one of the other fourth grade teachers here at Crestwood Elementary.
Today, we're going to talk about finding digital tools that fit your classroom and some successes we've had building our own digital toolkits, as well as some failures we've had building our own digital toolkits. The first thing that we need to talk about, what is a digital toolkit? Digital toolkit is just any type of digital tool that you're comfortable with and familiar with and want to utilize in your classroom on a daily basis. These tools are used to enhance teaching. They can be used to remediate or extend learning. They are not in place of teaching. And these tools can be different for everybody. It's really important to start with something that you are familiar with and comfortable with. Otherwise, you're going to be frustrated, your kids are going to be frustrated, and it isn't going to work. Another important part of planning with a digital mindset is thinking always, how can I make this digital? If it's something you already have, maybe an old school tool, paper, pencil, what can I do? What tool can I use in order to turn this digital?
So think about your digital toolbox as something that you might already have. The traditional toolboxes that teachers have are things like games, different paper type lessons that they're able to out maybe when the schedule changes or something goes different than they expected. Most teachers who've been teaching for a while have those kind of things kind of in their back pocket to pull out and be ready. But your digital toolbox is going to be a little bit different. And instead of having paper-based games and lessons to pull out, you're going to have some things on the computers, on their Chromebooks, on your smartboard to pull out and have ready for kids to go through. Remember, these things should be stuff that enhances, doesn't replace. It should also be stuff that helps the children learn, not just pure games, although there is a time and place for brain breaks throughout the day. Remember to string together several tools in your toolkit. That'll help to kind of make the lesson a little bit more enhanced and bring together a lot of the tools that we're going to be talking about today. One last point, make sure you know your hardware. We have some Promethean boards, some smart boards, different types of boards here at Crestwood, and so we're honestly surprised by how many teachers don't know the full capabilities of their boards and the way these digital tools work on their boards. So make sure you know your whole projection unit, how that works, your computer, how that works, have all that ready with your toolbox. And coming up next, we're going to show you guys how we put together a lesson using our digital toolboxes. We're going to create the same lesson in a couple different ways.
If I wanted to plan out a lesson using a digital mindset for Virginia Studies SOL 7B, the Civil War battles, the first thing that I would need to do is decide what is my essential knowledge? What do I want my students to get out of this lesson? After determining this, I would use a Nearpod for my first digital tool. Nearpod is a tool that I am very familiar with and my students use all the time. Nearpod presents students with the information through a series of video slides and information slides, as well as interactive activities for students to complete. They complete these slides at their own pace, and while they do it, they can take notes that will save directly to their Google Drive. While students work on their Nearpod independently, I can pull a small group of students and go through a Google My Maps. Google My Maps is a great tool to show specific locations on a map. So for this lesson, I have placed pins on the map that show the specific locations for each important Civil War battle. We can click through together, read information about the battle, and check out the pictures that I have inserted for each point. This is also something that the students will later have access to go back to on their own after we have done it together. At the end of this lesson, I will want to gauge what my students got out of our lesson. I will use a classroom screen. Classroom Screen is a great tool that I use throughout the day. You can place directions, you can place a clock, you could insert a timer if you want to make sure your students know exactly how much time they have to work on something. But on Classroom Screens, at the bottom right, they have a exit poll. When you click on it, it opens a new tab, and you can type in a quick assessment that you want your students to do. You type in a quick question. How do you feel about today's lesson? Can you name at least 2 of the Civil War battles? This pops up on my Promethean board. Students will then take turns coming up to the board as they get in line for lunch, just really quickly, very low risk, and click how they feel they did on today's lesson, or can they name at least 2 of the Civil War battles. Maybe I need a little bit more practice, and so I'm going for the semi-smiley face. Again, I will watch them do this so that I gain knowledge about how each student feels, but this is low risk because they do not have to put their names attached to it. Later in the day, when we come to guided reading, as an extension of what we learned, I will give students access to a collection of books that I've placed on Epic Books. Epic Books is a great online reading tool with tons and tons of books that students can read. Some books they can listen to. There are activities and questions that go with some books. I have put together specifically several Civil War related books that they can read on their own to gain more Civil War knowledge. I will give students access to this Epic Book collection at the beginning of our Civil War unit, and they'll be able to use it throughout the whole unit, not just as we do the lesson on the Civil War battles. Another digital tool that we will use at the end of our unit is a Kahoot. Kahoot is a fun online game that students log into with a code, and the questions pop up on our Promethean board, and they have to quickly answer the questions and they get points. Again, it's a low risk game, but students really love it, and it's a great tool to help review towards the end of a unit.
So I'm going to be teaching the same lesson that Bradleigh was just teaching, but using a few different digital tools from my toolbox that are similar to, but different from what she was using. Notice the content is the same. We are both teaching Virginia Studies 7B from our 4th grade classrooms, major Civil War battles fought in Virginia. And although the content is the same, the children will get the same information out of both of our lessons. Our toolboxes are a little bit different, the tools we use. For starters, I'm going to be pushing everything through Google Classroom, a great product that categorizes things, gives one-stop shopping for the kids, is an easy way for them to find what I need them to find quickly. For starters, they'll be working on a Venn diagram made with Google Drawing, something that allows them to sort some things that either shows me prior knowledge if this is the beginning of a unit, or is a review for something we've learned over the last couple of days. And as they're working through this, I can pass out some things that I've made through Microsoft Word, some notes and some study guides, hard copies for them to put into their notebooks to have at home to study with. Afterwards, we will start talking about some independent and group work happening simultaneously. Bradleigh used Nearpod. Her kids were working through Nearpods independently with headphones on their Chromebooks. Mine will be using Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle is a great tool because it takes YouTube videos, stops periodically at predetermined spots where it asks questions that the kids have to answer in order to continue through the video.
Then Confederate General Barnard Beecher exclaimed, "There stands Jackson like a stone. Rally the..."
So as they're working on this independently, I can call people over in groups to work with me on another Google product. This is a Google Earth product called Tour Builder. Tour Builder is similar to Bradleigh's My Maps that she used. It's a little more linear in the way it teaches. It gives facts both in written word as well as video and pictures. Kids can also interact through today's modern maps around it to kind of see what's become of the area since and how the pieces fit together as we go through the map. So after our group work and our independent work, I'm going to need to do some kind of check for understanding, see how the lesson went today. Bradleigh used Classroom Screen to gauge where hers were. I'm going to use Poll Everywhere. Poll Everywhere is a tool that allows answers to be anonymous, so very low risk. This particular one is pushed through a website, and the kids log onto the website and they're able to enter their responses. There's a lot of different ways to show the results. I've chosen a cloud, word cloud to show the results. And as the results come in, you'll see that the larger words mean that that was entered more often, and the smaller words were entered less often. So I can know that for remediation purposes, the stuff that's in large font probably doesn't need to be gone over again, whereas the smaller font items need to be tracked and reviewed. For my early finishers, or if there's any other time during the day where they have some free time, I like to use Quizlet. Similar to Bradleigh's Kahoot that she used, it gives different concepts that we're learning about through flashcards, through writing, spelling, testing, match, and gravity games. And the Quizlet Live is a big fan favorite towards the end of a unit to help review for a test, where they get into groups and compete against each other with their knowledge they've learned. During our reading time, Bradleigh was using Epic Books to help get some extra knowledge in there, some cross-curricular stuff. I'll be using readworks.org. Readworks gives us fiction and nonfiction passages that are reading passages that have vocabulary support for our ESL population, and question sets that are graded through the website. This can also be pushed through Google Classroom, just like the rest of the things that we've done. Throughout the lesson, I'll also be using Active Inspire for a couple of different purposes. Keeping track of our time, making sure we're staying on target, as well as there's a countdown feature if I need to use that. I can also use the desktop annotate feature to kind of point out what needs to be done, how fast it needs to be done, and letting people know, kind of directing my instruction. So as you can see, I've used similar yet different tools from Bradleigh in my toolbox, and the students will still get the same information at the end of the day. So now we wanted to talk real quick about some of the successes and failures we've had with teaching with the digital toolbox through our experiences in the classroom.
The first thing to remember is to grow your tools a little bit at a time. If you try to do too much at once, you're going to get frustrated. Maybe start implementing something that somebody else has made instead of starting with building your own tools. That's going to be the quickest and easiest way to do it.
Make sure you know your tools too. Be comfortable with them, or you're going to get really frustrated. If you're trying something new, know that you're going to get a little frustrated, but if you're going to string some together, make sure you know how each one works. Building your toolbox takes a while. You're going to have to create resources at first, but then in the successive years, you're going to have stuff to go back on and use.
Remember, don't push tools just to be using them. Make sure that they fit the goal that you have for that lesson or for your class as a whole. Digital tools shouldn't be a set it and forget it classroom. You should still be teaching, and they should be enhancing your lessons.
Make sure and ask a partner for help. Bounce ideas off them like Bradleigh and I do, or use your integrator. They are great resources for finding these tools that are helpful and how they can enhance your lesson.
You have to be okay with the possibility of your lesson not working the first time that you do it and still trying it again.
Once you have a digital toolbox, you can automatically pull from those tools with relative ease, and your lesson planning becomes a lot quicker and easier.
Once you make something, share it. Other people love tools that other people have already made. Someone else could use it or improve it.
thanks for being with us on this Digital Learning Day 2019. Hope this helped. Leave any comments or feedback in the document.